Cory with the Project Advantage. Today, Neil and I will be discussing a topic very relevant to almost anyone who potentially could be tuning in today, tariffs. But today we're really going to talk about it in the context of contractors and facilities managers who are really going to bear the brunt of what's going on.
Very scary time the last 6 to 8 weeks.
As you know, we've been talking to a lot of people in the space, how they're feeling about it, how it's impacting their businesses. What have you been hearing? What's the temperature in the room?
Well, Cory, you're right. It is a very important topic. Every day I do get calls from partners, customers, both electricians and facility managers, still unsure really what's going on. And they're actually looking to us, their supplier and partner in the industry, on what's going on. And it is a very scary time. The biggest unknown is really what is the price someone's going to pay for something, because it is not the same everywhere. Things are changing, and that's going to go on for a while. So really the most important focus area right now for those contractors and facility managers is to really understand and communicate with their partners on what their needs are, and have them explain to them what their strategy is to keep their costs down. And that is, I think, the best thing they can be doing at this point.
So let's take a step back for a second. There's a lot of different opinions about what the tariffs actually are. Are the tariffs a tax on these overseas companies? Are the tariffs a tax on customers in the U.S.? I mean, what's the reality about what's actually?
It's actually both, when you really look at it. Because I think, as we all heard on the news last night, containers through the port of L.A. were down 40, 50, maybe even 60%. I forget the exact number. And that's projected. That means people aren't ordering and shipping from China, which is a huge supplier in a lot of the industrial commercial industries. So that does mean there will be shortages potentially for certain customers, for certain vendors. But in the end, that just means we from the U.S. are not ordering from China. It doesn't mean China isn't shipping to the U.S. So those that are ordering from China are going to be paying the tariff. So we, as a supplier, if we purchase a product and it's costing us $50 more, we are going to pass that along. When we sell the product, we have to pay our bills, our employees, pay our taxes and everything. So it just doesn't mysteriously get paid somehow. So that's the reality. It's both. And again, it gets back to really knowing that those partners you're dealing with have a strategy that allows them to not be necessarily tied to the China tariffs.
And so for a facility manager listening, when they go into work tomorrow, what questions should they be calling their suppliers and asking? Just to make sure that they don't wake up with a bill that's 50% higher or more than they were expecting.
I mean, great question, Cory. So the real key is they need to make sure they're working with a partner that's diversified in where their products come from. There are a lot of Asia sources that are all not impacted by the China. We, about a year ago, began our move away from China into many other countries around the world that were friendly to manufacturing requirements of companies like ours. And so we're not, so today about 20% of our products come from China, very specialized, high quality products that are unavailable anywhere else. But, so it really gets back to communicating with, like I had one of our biggest customers call me today and say, hey, I just wanted to check in. We haven't talked about tariffs in a while, but, do you guys have stock? Are our prices going to go up? And he wanted to hear from us what we expected to happen over the next 2 to 3 months, which is really at this point as far as someone can tell, because as we all saw from the beginning of February to the middle of April, tariffs changed 10 times.
So tell us, what's going to happen the next 2 to 3 months?
I think the China situation is going to continue, because I don't think anyone's going to back down, either from the U.S. standpoint or from the China standpoint. And what the U.S. is doing is not wrong. Maybe just how we're doing it is wrong. And we have been taken advantage of over the years. But, China is a great manufacturing partner, high quality. Most of our products in the space are made there, or material sources from there. I do think a lot of the other countries are going to cut the deal, and that in our case, 70% of our products are going to come from countries that are not going to be taxed any more than they were before. So, our customers are not going to see significant price increases. And there are a lot of other people out there like us that took the same strategies. But I think you need to make sure you're with that company and that, when you finally need the product in July, your price is 50% more. And that's really the real risk people all have.
So that will happen at some point. You have a project you're working on, you go to actually place the order with your supplier. Let's say it's a baseball field, it could be any sort of industrial project, and the final PO comes in and it's 50% higher, 75% higher than you're expecting. I mean, how do you communicate that with your customer?
Well, you have to be very proactive, and that's the challenge. I mean, reality is, in business, there's always issues, and you got to deal with them straight on. So, for example, we're proactively calling our customers where we have some like I said, 20% of our products still come from China, and we've communicated very effectively with our customers and really worked to get product to them that they had ordered without it impacting them to any great degree. It meant a little longer lead times because we bundled shipments together to get them out for maximum benefit, the types of tariffs. But, it's really just communicating and knowing. We've had a lot of customers come to us and say, hey, my supplier doesn't have product anymore, or they want 50% more. So we're working with a lot of those people to get them the most cost-effective quality solution that they can accept for their project as a substitute. But it's going to be going on for a while now, unfortunately. I really don't envision it to be being done till after Labor Day. I think it could take that long.
Well, it's probably a good opportunity for many contractors and facilities managers to really start thinking about their marketing, how they communicate with their customers more broadly. And if, for anyone listening, if you haven't ever sent out a newsletter to your customer base, now might be the right time to think about sending just a quick, brief email out. Say, we're thinking about this, we're asking the right questions, we're thinking strategically about it, because at the end of the day, end users, be it a factory, a baseball team, a school,
whatever.
I mean, they have a budget they can work within, and if they only are finding out at the last minute that something's going on that will impact them, maybe they're hearing about it in the news but are hoping it won't impact them, the deal might just fall through.
I think there are a couple things they can also do. So when you are dealing with your supplier, ask the question, are my costs going to go up if it closes in 30 or 45 days? How long are you guaranteeing your pricing? What is the fine print? Also, I recommend on their quotes they give to their customers, they add a line that really specifies if tariffs were to go up, prices could go up, and that those will be communicated with them. That's what we're really seeing is some strategies to allow but just as you want to be asking questions of your supplier, you want to also be pursuing your customers and communicating with them if you do foresee pricing going up. You don't want it to be a surprise when they come to order. So, it's all about communication. And again, things could change tomorrow. I mean, they probably will. So, so it's all about communication.
Well, let's talk about some bright spots in this whole situation. So there are some product categories in this commercial industrial world that we live in that are not as impacted or at all impacted by the tariffs.
Correct.
Poles in some cases.
All made in the USA from wood pole and composite pole standpoint. Steel poles, which we saw a lot of also, will be impacted by the steel tariffs, which I don't think will go away. However, we've introduced last year new composite poles, which are stronger, longer warranty, that will not go up in price. They're made in America. So again, there are a lot of solutions.
So why are steel poles not currently made in the United States?
They may be at some future point, but again, it's just from the price point that people are used to pay. You can't make a pole in the U.S. at that price point. And that really becomes the challenge.
And hopefully that might be a positive outcome of everything going on, that some of that manufacturing comes back here.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, we're a small U.S. company. We probably couldn't afford to bring all our manufacturing here for businesses of our size, which makes up a big part of the economy. The reality is we can't start we'd be out of business before we ever could get ramped up. So that's not the reality for us. For all the bigger, the Apples of the world, those types of places, the big chip manufacturers, where they can keep manufacturing going over there, but at the same time, build plants, get
500 billion. to build a
get money, tax breaks, tax benefits to build plants. That's really where all this tariff stuff will really benefit the USA, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for talking about the topic. I mean, it's something that's really relevant to the whole audience. So for our audience, this is an area we'll continue to keep our finger on the pulse, and as things develop, we'll continue to keep you updated. Thanks for.
Thank you, Cory. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Stay in the light.